Kollek, I wonder if you're able to hear us in the secure room.
Ashdod.
Chaim, it looks like you're following the news very closely.
You know what? I'm doing work here. I'm answering phone calls while I'm watching N12
Right.
live.
Okay.
Someone
Someone wanting to come in called Zoom user. I'm not going to admit that person. So if anyone knows who that was, tell them to come in with their name.
How is Hannah, Laura? Is she home?
Hi, yes, she's home. We were able to get her home last week, and her classes have resumed online because most of the students did leave.
Okay.
All right. I am going to welcome everybody here. So glad you could be with us. We lost Dr. Kollek he's coming back on. He was just heading to the safe room. A siren went off just as we were beginning. He is in Ashdod.
Hi, folks. I apologize. This has nothing to do with warfare, everything to do with Wi-Fi. So we got sidetracked. I just lost Wi-Fi coverage. So the neighbors kind of gave it to us after telling us that this is the chance to see everybody's pajamas because it's late at night tonight. Everything is absolutely fine.
Until next time.
All right.
I hope we don't see each other again tonight.
We hope so too.
Continue
Continue using the Wi-Fi. It's not.
Okay. Thank you so much. Toda rabba. Okay, sorry folks for that.
It's all right. Thanks for being so flexible.
We'll get back into the apartment. We go. Next time I'll go with my phone and I'll be able to hotspot things. Okay. All yours. With apologies for the
good evening.
Apologies for all the hassle.
Oh my goodness, you're giving us a taste of what life is actually like where you are. Someone keeps trying to come in. They're called Zoom user. I'm not letting them in. So if anyone knows who that is, I'm not comfortable letting in someone I don't know their name. All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for taking this time to be with us, to give us a little taste about what your volunteer work involves and what's happening on the ground where you are, Dr. Kollek. For those of you here on this call today, earlier this morning, I connected with Dr. Kollek and he was able to give me a tour of the station where he is at Magen David Adom. And I have a video to share of that. Would you like to begin with that, Daniel? Or
probably simplest, then I can take questions. That way it won't be repetitive.
Okay, so let us take that tour and share that work that we did earlier today here. Hold on. All right, here we go. Check your mic.
That should be better. How's it?
I hear you. I hear you.
Hey there.
All right, and we're recording, but I will. How are you doing today?
Good, just finished the shift. And I'm going to take you around quickly for a tour before it goes. There's going to be, there's a Timmobile here, like for EMS. Got an iced coffee. I mean,
Is that an aroma coffee?
It's actually better than the aroma iced coffee.
There's something better than aroma iced coffee.
This is better iced coffee. I'm telling you.
All right.
Sweet.
Good to know.
All righty. Why don't we get started?
Love it. So you just finished a shift, yes?
That is right.
Okay.
So I'm back at the base station.
In Ashdod?
In Ashdod, correct. There are ambulances at 2 or 3 locations throughout the city, but dispatch and the major ambulance base station is at one specific location right by Ashdod Hospital. Why don't, if it's okay with you, why don't I give you a quick tour
Please.
so you see what's going on? We just literally, as we speak, have had shift change, so there'll be a bit more people wandering around, but as long as you're okay with the sound, and
Absolutely.
if not, tell me, let me give you a quick look. Okay, so
Okay.
turn the camera around. Yeah, I don't know if I can turn the camera around on Zoom. It doesn't let me.
Oh, okay.
All right, we'll just do it differently. It's okay. So what you're looking at here is the parking lot of the station.
Right.
And you'll see a bunch of empty spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Now, or there's an ambulance, but then there's some civilian cars, and then there's a gap and other cars. The reason for that is that they're purposely spreading the ambulances out. So, for example, one of them is way down there. You see that yellow vehicle in the corner, right? Other ones are out on the street. I'll just walk you out there now. Because the idea is that if a missile is incoming and it takes out part of the station, you want to minimize the number of ambulances that are damaged. So as a result, a lot of the vehicles, a lot of the trucks are parked out here on the road. As you can
Okay.
see.
Yeah. Never together in one spot. Has the station been hit at all?
No.
Okay.
The station has one reinforced room, central room. The rest of it, if it is hit, is not considered protected.
Right.
But so far, thankfully, we've been doing really well. The one time I was here for an incoming, you just heard the boom you actually felt the boom of Iron Dome doing the intercept above the station. Now, we have a few different kinds of ambulances, but before I get into the clinical stuff, let me show you the most important vehicle in the station at this present moment. And that is the snack mobile. Hang on, where is it?
Did you say the snack mobile?
I did say the snack mobile because these guys just pulled up and just opened up now.
Really?
They go from station to station and they feed everybody. Right?
Amazing.
So the whole crew showed up. Hang on a second. חבר'ה, תגידו שלום לקהילה היהודית בהמילטון, Ontario. Hey. Okay.
Shalom
So
Lechem.
these are the guys. These are the people that make things happen. Okay?
Amazing.
So that's the one vehicle that is, they just pulled up, they just opened up a few minutes ago, so everyone's really grabbing their coffee. Another one that's really very cool, and it's not the kind of stuff you talk about sort of in the disaster setting and so on, is this one. I'm just looking at it. Here we go. What I'm coming up on now. And what this is a wish ambulance. And what they do is they will take patients who are sick with something severe, palliative, whatever, and want to do something that requires transport. So let's say they want to go to the Kotel to pray. They want to go to the beach, something like that. This is the vehicle that will take them. If it can technically be done, these guys will figure out how to take them there.
The
So
Wishmobile.
It's a wishmobile, exactly. Now, the ambulances come in 2 colors. Anything yellow is intensive. So, for example, this one there, that's the kind of unit we've been on. I'll talk about that in a second.
Right.
These are mobile ICUs, and they can do pretty much what any one of our ICUs can do. Not forever, because there's limited oxygen, limited power.
Right.
But generally speaking, they can do pretty much any of that. And so those are the yellow ambulances. You can see there's a few of them in the lot here. But
Right.
the ones we saw on the street were white ambulances, and they are basic life support. So they can do scoop and run. They may be able to get an IV, but they won't intubate it or anything more intensive. Then you have these guys, because
Ah,
traffic being what it is, there's a whole bunch of motorcycle-based
Wow.
units that have everything is standardized. So standardized gear in the box,
amazing.
and they can deploy pretty quickly to anywhere because it's mobile. And we do have a fire truck here, and we also do have a crew out today, for example. I was out at the and we have a crew out at the fire station, so we both can deploy from both sides.
Right.
We have a variety of, oh, it's not here right now. There's a car that is specifically labeled as being for with bullet protection. So if you're deploying to a hot site, the car is supposed to give you more protection than otherwise.
Right.
So that's the sort of the outline of what's available here. What we are doing is we're going out on the ambulances as typically a third hand. In Israel, currently, every single potential ambulance is deployed. In other words, if it was in storage, if it was in a garage, if it was meant to be retired as a vehicle, doesn't matter. They're all deployed. I'm just going to get out of the way, stuff is moving. And the problem isn't the vehicle. The problem is getting someone to staff it.
Right.
So right now, they have recruited 600 Milumnikim reservists to do the to staff. But it's still not enough. That's where we come in. We're another pair of hands. The docs go out with a senior and a junior paramedic. Sometimes we will go out on the white vehicles because they just need another pair of hands, but it's limited. The degree to which we can help there is limited because we don't have the drugs, we don't have the equipment. But we go out and we respond to the site. Everybody is trained on the same thing, and I'm going to try and get a key to one of the ambulances in 2 seconds, and I'm going to take you inside one of the ICU ones, so you have an idea. Because just to give you an idea of the capacity, they can do pretty much anything I can do in my resuscitation room in the emergency department, but they do it in the field. And one of the units is, in fact, a 4-bed unit, which is like a basically small ICU in a rural hospital. They have that on wheels. This is actually, I just got inside the station.
Right.
Hang on, I'm just going to see if I can find the guy who has the keys. I already know where Yaniv is.
I don't.
Okay, I want to see if I get into the rig to show people what the rig is. I think so. Are you the guys? Are you in the corner? Are you in the corner?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. That's a bit of a distraction. Sorry to the Zoom audience. Let me see if I can show you one other thing. Every building has a mamad, a secure room. So this is ours. So when the siren goes off, you see people, because of added staff issues, people are bunking down here as well. Accommodation was an issue because a lot of people are showing up. They're never this full, right? Windows, as you can see, they have sliding steel doors. Is it
underground? Is that room underground?
No. This is the hallway.
Okay.
This is the hallway that I was in before, but the room itself is reinforced.
Yeah. Okay.
So when the siren goes off, you just walk to the mamad, and you close down the secure room, and you close down. Usually, by the time we're all in, it's about time to head out again. So that's sort of what it's like where we are. If you look over on the horizon, you'll see that is Ashdod Hospital. So we are actually very near.
I was going to ask, where's your point where you're taking people when you're in the ambulance?
I would tell us Shomel earlier today for transport that needed to go there, but typically we go nearby because the point is to keep the vehicle on the road. So a long transport means a long time that we don't have access.
Right.
So yeah, the vehicle is locked. I will find the driver if I can. But it's, so we do go to Ashdod Hospital typically. On occasion, we don't take the patient at all. I mean, sometimes patients will decline. Sometimes they don't need it. If we can downgrade from our unit to a white ambulance, we will, because that frees our unit up sooner rather than later.
Right.
And that way, it just frees things up for the ICU units to move. Not sure what else I can tell you. I mean, that's sort of the long and the short of it. The work it's regular emergency department work. It's nothing particularly unique.
But you're in a war. You're in a war, Daniel.
Well, yes, but between that, I know it sounds terrible, but it really is. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play, right? So I just need to walk up to one of the units if they're not going out and ask if they're okay with this.
Okay,
Excuse me for a second.
sure.
חבר'ה, אני על זום עם הקהילה היהודית שלי בקנדה. אני יכול להראות להם את ה... Okay. Okay, so hang on a sec, I'm going to flip this around. תודה רבה. חבר'ה, אתם הולכים להיות ממש מפורסמים. אני על זום עם הקהילה שלי בקנדה, הם רוצים לראות את האמבולנס. זה בסדר עם שניכם? Okay, so this is the inside of the ambulance. I'm just going to park myself here for a second.
Okay. Wow.
You have all the monitoring capabilities, all the airway and intubation capability that you have in an ICU. You have oxygen small tanks. You have back doors. Chemical and biological warfare equipment is there. You have the stretcher. You have a drug box with all of the usual drugs. And just to point out, underneath here, helmet, flak jackets are always in proximity.
Right.
That's not the feedback? No, oh, yes. Separate kit, only pediatric gear. That's unique for kids. Those are the flak jackets that we hate. I hate because, as you can see, getting into it, it's not as easy.
Wow.
And then there's the neck guard that always seems to get in the way. And everything is computerized in the sense that we have it all on a tablet. We get our directions through ways. Drugs. There are drugs, as you can see, a pretty full
I see a
pharmacy
very
here.
robust cabinet up there.
It's stuff that, again, the EMS crews in Canada, the EMS crews in Canada would drool over, because it really is
Wow.
some pretty aggressive medications. So that's the tour of the station. What else can I tell you?
So you've been there for a week and a half. How do you know so much? How did you get, integrated so quickly?
Oh, well, welcome to Israel. Operationally, we arrived on the Wednesday night. They took us up to Jerusalem, where the MADA is Magen David Adom, the Red Star of David. So they took us up to there where the headquarters were. And Thursday morning, we had a quick overview of the equipment, of some of the basic protocols, of the safety protocols, particularly because this is, as you mentioned, there is the war, and that part of it is usually foreign to most of our training. And then by Thursday afternoon, we deployed on ambulances in Jerusalem, because that's where we were at that moment in time. Friday morning, we drove down to Ashdod, and Friday afternoon, we deployed our ambulances in Ashdod. The ambulances are pretty much carbon copies one of the other. You can drop out of one and into another, and you'll find your way around. Literally where every drug is, if you notice a third stop in the top, you can do it blind. Where every pocket in the gear is exactly the same.
Wow.
And I haven't memorized it all. I mean, these guys memorize it all because they live it, but I've memorized enough of it for the routine stuff so I can grab stuff quickly. And 90% of it work is schlepping, right? It is, get to the patient, drag the gear to the patient. You would have to do on site, get the patient on the stretcher, and get the stretcher back to the hospital. So it's a lot of, and that, I mean, for that, anybody can do that. That's just heavy weight carrying. So the integration was pretty good. Clinically, because we're all emergency physicians, we have the same skill set, and it sort of fits well. And more important than the same skill set, as emergency personnel, we have the same sort of way of thinking, which is kind of quirky, but it fits, right?
Good.
The sense of humor here is everything. It can be as serious as you think. They will almost never lose a sense of humor. The only time I've seen people go totally sort of, they're always focused on task, but where everything else was taken out. We had a 10-year-old vital signs absent patient that was resuscitated by another, by the way, local physician, Ira Price. And in that one, there, I mean, all humor stops at that. But aside from that, you know, you just go on with the job. We had, I was out on a call and the sirens went off. So you pull the car over, you grab your flak suit, you get into it, or in my case, you struggle into it, and you leave the vehicle and take shelter on the side, and you just wait. And then you hear the boom of the intercept above you. And then after, they say 2 minutes, I don't know if you actually waited 2 minutes, but then you get back in the car and you keep going. Because the task hasn't disappeared, the task is still there, so just get it done.
Right.
And that it really is just they just get it done, and that's what makes them so unstoppable. It's not, there's no agonizing over it. There's enough agonizing all the time, just thinking about that Saturday, and everybody knows somebody, especially here because they're near the south, right? Everybody knows somebody who was affected, but they park it and they just get on with work.
Because you have to.
Yeah, that's it. It's just you do the job in front of you.
I know your time there is coming to an end on the weekend after Shabbat. How are you feeling about leaving?
Oh, very mixed feelings.
Yeah.
Very mixed feelings. It is amazing how close you get to people here. One of my first day in this station, I was on a white ambulance because the yellows were staffed, and I went out with a BLS crew, a basic life support crew, and we came back, dropped off a patient, came back to the station, and then I was getting my stuff out of the rig, and the lead paramedic was already in the station, and the sirens went off, and the first word out of her mouth was Daniel, you know, like. Her first word was to make sure that I was okay.
Yeah.
You know, and that kind of stuff, they take it for granted here, but I don't take it for granted. I mean, that's sort of the concept of team, the taking care of each other. I mean, you laugh like crazy here, and that's also true of the emergency department in some ways. But
Right.
It really is a very, very strong team. And that's partly why we integrated. Because I'm quite frank with them when I get on board, is that there are things that they do that I don't. I hadn't started an IV until I got here. I hadn't started an IV since medical school because I have excellent nursing colleagues who always get the IV. They can get an IV in a statue. I don't need to do anything. But here, it's one of the jobs.
Oh,
so I find
how's
myself
that
starting
going?
IV. So, you know, and I told them, I'm not good at this. Not our problem. You do the next one. And so they walk me through it. If there's a rush, they won't walk me through it. But
Amazing.
everybody does their own thing to help everyone else out. And the other thing about that is really quite striking is the generosity. When we got to Jerusalem, literally until while we were in the air, they still didn't know where we were going to put us. A woman in a religious neighborhood donated her apartment, like a basement apartment, like a storeroom that was made into an apartment. It was tiny. That's all we needed because it had 3 beds, it had a shower, had a toilet, had light. We arrived late. Within 10 minutes, another person from the building, from a neighboring unit, says, "What can I do for you? Can I get you food?" Well, they never left us food. Can I do your laundry? We just got here. We don't have laundry. But then he said, I know. You're in the basement. And there was no reception. Here's my Wi-Fi password. And he gave us his Wi-Fi.
Wow.
Right? So we could reach home and say, you know, this is that we're all okay.
Volunteers are
morning-
completely embraced and completely supported.
Unbelievably. The next morning, because the place is really tiny, I grabbed a cup of tea and I went outside and I sat outside to just have a cup of tea and a bit of quiet. A woman comes from another building, and this is an Orthodox neighborhood, so they're very community oriented. And she says to me, "Baruch haba, kol hakavod." Welcome and kol hakavod is.
You know, the whole neighborhood knows you're a volunteer.
Yeah, literally the whole neighborhood knows I'm a volunteer. We come by Thursday night, there's chulent and some fresh baked challahs waiting for us. I mean, incredible.
Wow.
Here, we got to Ashdod, and again, we're the first group coming after. By now, things are sorted out, but at the very beginning, they had other priorities. Their priority was to sort out the operational stuff. So everything in terms of getting ambulances working and crew and all that all was perfect. Where they're going to house us, really, that's a second-tier problem. So the original plan was to put us on cots in that mamad, in that safe room. But there's one shower for the entire station. You see how many people are here, right? Not ideal. So when somebody heard this, other paramedics, literally, this happened to me alone twice, turned around and said, "Here are the keys to my apartment. I'm working night shift. Just go." They don't know me from Adam, Dad. They've never seen me before that instant. Take my key. We ended up getting invited to go to an apartment where some French docs were staying, and hopefully they may join us on the call.
Oh, fantastic. I hope so.
And then people who knew them invited all of us for Shabbat. You're in a foreign city. It was one of the most joyous Shabbatot I've ever had. Totally regardless of the fact that the sirens went off twice. You go into the room, you wait out, you come back out, food didn't even get cold. So it really was the welcoming aspect of things. Between that and the absolute resolve of people that they are going to deal with this, and that is that.
We're getting through this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, the Haredi and secular divide is gone in this context.
Right.
A fair number of the ambulance crew are Haredim. Haredi people came from New York to staff the EMS outpost in Sderot. Sderot, for those who don't know, the joke is when you try to reassure your family that you're going south, you're going to be safe, say, "I won't go past Sderot," because past Sderot is nothing. Past Sderot is Gaza.
Yeah.
So they're the very, very front line. They have seconds of response time when the siren goes off. They're Orthodox from New York. Now, for those who don't know on this call, prior to the war, there was a bit of a divide in the secular and the Orthodox. But now, these guys are everywhere.
Wow.
Typically, the Orthodox don't serve in the army. Well, 2,000 of them have drafted themselves as volunteers as of past Monday. So, I mean, the war is unifying the country.
Yes, it's a great unifier. It's amazing to see and hear about. Okay, we're gonna check in with you after you've had some rest. You're at the end of your shift, so we're going to be online with our community at 3 p.m. here this afternoon, and I expect you'll be in your PJs by then, and we'll have a talk and have some Q&A. Thank you so much.
No problem at all.
Thank you.
See you in a few hours.
Okay,
Bye.
we'll see you later. All right.
Bye.
And we're back live with Dr. Daniel Haupt. Maybe those were pajamas, I don't know.
Actually not. I thought about it. Actually not.
We would love to open things up to Q&A. So just unmute yourself, tell us who you are, and ask a question of the good doctor in Israel. Chaim.
Okay, I'll go first. So first of all, kol hakavod, Dani, for avodat kodesh that you do, sacred work. Also, my neighbor here, supposed to be with you. I don't know. I've seen a picture of Ira Price. Is he still there with you?
Ira, at this moment, is waiting in the departure lounge. He's heading back tonight.
Okay, he's my next door neighbor here. I want to share a little bit of a short story with you because it relates here. Two stories. One, you mentioned Asuta Hospital. Assuta Hospital has a Canadian flavor. It was designed by Zeidler Partnership of Toronto. I work with them at the Juravinsky Hospital here in Hamilton, just to make a closure on that. The one question I have with the sub-story is really there's a lot of organization here looking for funds. That's the minimum we can do from far abroad. I wish I was there with you, to be honest with you. And a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, he was the emissary of the JNF in Canada in the 80s. Lieutenant Colonel in the Israeli army. His granddaughter was killed in an accident in the army about 3-4 months ago. She was 19-year-old and he was devastated. The president of Israel went to the Shiva there. And when this whole, and I've been in touch with him all the time. He always comes with a motor. He's an 82-year-old man today, came with a motorcycle to visit me in Israel last October. He texted me about a week and a half ago, as soon as the war started, and he says, I have an agreement with Magen David Adom, and I'm trying to raise funds, $140,000 for an ambulance in her memory. Okay, the sub-story here is that Erev Yom, and he's very secular, he would never go to synagogue, Yaakov Peretz. Erev Yom Kippur, he went to synagogue and he wanted to fight with God. Why did you do this to me? You took my 19-year-old granddaughter away. His answer came on the 7th of October. 30 of her friends in her unit were murdered on the 7th of October. And he says if she didn't have the accident, she might have been in a worse condition. What do you, for Magen David Adom, is there a real need for ambulances now? Because I hear different stories on that. And is that a good thing that we could perhaps, help Magen David Adom in Israel? That's the question I have.
So the short answer is yes, but I don't do short answers. This entire country is hurting. You are watching an endless parade on television of families talking about their story. And I am talking endless. I am talking from the morning to the night, because all television programming here right now is news, and in between news items, it's family stories. And it is endless with no repetition.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everybody I have met in the station knows somebody. Remember, we're in the South.
Mm-hmm.
So these people are geographically close to where all this happened. When I was visiting someone in a building in Ashdod, a 17-story building, just 5 minutes drive from where I am right now. You can see Gaza. So, and when the bombs drop, you hear it and you feel it.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody here feels this loss. And they park it because it's time to do the job.
Mm-hmm.
And there will be an emotional reckoning. I have no doubt about that. One of the things, the safe room is called the mamad. That's a Hebrew term for it. And they talk about a mamad nafshi, a spiritual or an emotional safe room for people. And they're talking about, there are endless numbers for counseling that are coming up online. Anything to do to de-stress people, they're trying to do. One of the banks announced, for 3 months, we're paying your mortgage. Don't even think about it. Your mortgage is paid. Anybody with a mortgage, I think it's Bank Tfachot,
Mm-hmm.
anyone with a mortgage there, for 3 months, it's paid. People are coming to the station just to bring us stuff. One guy came with a box of Barbie dolls or clone Barbie dolls for people to take home to their kids. I'll tell you about an event that happened today. These women show up, about half a dozen women in their 50s, upper 40s, 50s. and they're all carrying cake, which is not an uncommon thing in this country. They get us together and they say, look, we have a friend. Today is her 50th birthday. And she wanted for her birthday gift for us to, instead of giving her something, everyone should do an hour of volunteer time. So we baked. And our friend would be here with us, except she died on, that's Shabbat. She was killed on that Shabbat. Everyone here is touched. And everybody here parks it, everyone gets it done, gets the job done. The cost of doing this, just to be totally mundane now, the fiscal cost of having hundreds of thousands of people taken away from the economy and being, you have to pay them and you have to feed them and you have to get them their gear. I'm only talking about Magen David Adom now, running all the extra ambulances is enormous. Then there's the other part of it. When Hamas went into, I think it was in Be'eri, in one of the sites, they purposely destroyed ambulances. Why? Because if you do that, then you can't deliver care. So yes, they need support, they need ambulances. They need everything. Ultimately, but I have no qualms saying that things that go here go to a good cause. And I'll add to that something that no one has asked, and that is also a difficult question. Magen David Adom doesn't ask you if you're Arab or if you're Jewish. If you're a patient, you're a patient. Beyond that, they don't ask you if you're a Hamas or not. Because I spoke to a crew that resuscitated a Hamas terrorist. Why? Because they're there and that's the job and they're people. And the difference is, as Rabbi Cohen stated a few weeks ago very well, what they do they look upon Jews not as humans. We don't do that. Magen David Adom doesn't do it. They are people and we will treat them. And it's difficult. And there are hospitals where we bring people in. I haven't had this experience, but I know people who have. And it's difficult because you bring in someone who did horrible things. They'll still treat them. So I have no qualms at all in supporting Magen David Adom in anything, for what it's worth. So that was, a long answer. The short answer to your question is yes.
Thank you.
In case you forgot my opening line.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I'm following N12 throughout 24/7 here, so I'm very familiar with everything that you have said. It's all good. Thank you for that.
Oh, we've been joined by Nat62. Hello, Nat60. Nat62, who joined us, is Nathalie, who was one of the French doctors who was with us. So, round of applause. She was there, and if it wasn't for her and her friend Ariela, we would have had nowhere to sleep the first night. They were the ones who took us in. So, you're
Unmute
muted,
yourself,
Nathalie.
Nathalie.
You're muted. You're still muted. There we go. Almost. Can you unmute her, Cantor Baruch?
I can only ask her to unmute, which I have.
You're still muted there. There we go.
Not Natalie.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. You hear me?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Nice to see you, Daniel.
Nice to see you too. This is the person who took us in and whose friends gave us that Shabbat dinner I told you about. And it was, if you ever needed instant family, this was instant family.
Yeah.
So, and she was out there with the ambulances just like we were. Kollek kavod, Natalie.
Kollek kavod to you.
Natalie, are you back home now?
Oh, I see you. Yes, I am.
And where is home for you?
It's Marseille in France. The south of France.
Wow.
But did you speak with Ariela or not yet?
I sent her the same message I sent you. Yeah. Let's see, any other questions from the group? Dead
Just
silent.
unmute and ask a question. This is an incredible opportunity.
Daniel, it's Laura Wolfson. Hello.
Hi,
Welcome
Laura.
to you and to you, Natalie.
Yeah.
Other than we're all in anguish and looking for ways to help. Other than contributions to Magen David Adom, are there other ways that you would suggest that we contribute?
I know that there are all kinds of drives for equipment and so on. I don't have specifics on that, and it's harder to do and harder to get to people than to transfer money. If you're looking at other organizations that could be good recipients, another group I would think, and Natalie, tell me if you disagree, is Zaka. Because Zaka has been going in and doing a job that I can't even conceive. The reason that some people are still labeled as missing, presumed kidnapped, is that there are bodies that are beyond recognition. So they're going and they're collecting DNA and they're doing DNA analysis, and it takes time. So the numbers you're going to get out of Israel are going to be real numbers, but they're going to be slow to get to you. And that's all Zaka. They go in, they retrieve everybody. There's also bodies that were dragged back into the Gaza Strip that are waiting there, presumably booby-trapped, and we don't know who they are. And again, all of that stuff is being done by Zaka. So when I say the country is hurting, the country all knows this, but they keep on doing the job.
Can I ask another question of you? I don't know if it was said at the very beginning, but you volunteered as an Israeli citizen. Like, how was it that you volunteered, or as a reservist, or?
Nope. I volunteered as Daniel Kollek, Canadian citizen. I happen to have Israeli citizenship. I happen to have an Israeli license, medical license, but that is totally irrelevant because Ira and Ira Price and Michael Schweitzer, who were with me, are not Israeli citizens. Natalie, are you an Israeli citizen?
No, I'm not.
No, it's just it's you show up because they will help. They will sort it out for you. You do not need to be an Israeli citizen. You need to have just bring a skill set.
So how did you volunteer yourself?
I put myself on the list for Magen David Adom. Yeah, same thing. Generally speaking, there are organizations that you sit on their lists, and then when there's time, when there's a need, they will call. Natalie, you trained with Magen David Adom. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, maybe?
Yeah, I trained for during 2 years, twice a year, and during 2 years, but it was not 2 years. Excuse me for my English, it's not so good, but if you understand me, it's okay. So I just, there's only a medical doctor from the Magen David Adom who can go and help them in Israel. I mean, we have a lot of friends who are doctors and can't go because it doesn't want to have someone who come without formation. And we do 2 formation in a year, and we do it 2 years. So it was four formation, and we had a lot of training, but practical training and theoric training class for 1 week to be ready to act in this case of war or area. I don't know how to say that, Daniel, in Aran. They call that Aran. Yeah.
In the mobile ICUs, dans les ambulances jaunes.
Oui, non,
Yeah.
non, ça c'est Nathan. Non, je veux dire, tu sais, quand il y a des tremblements de terre ou quand il y a des catastrophes comme ça.
Yes, Iru Rav Nifgaim, which translates to mass casualty incidents. But
we made also this formation to be ready, but in fact, you are not ready. I mean, you are never ready, in fact, because it's not real things. And now, and we saw real things, and it's different. But we were training to act for that.
Kavod.
Other questions?
There's two other Hamilton physicians that were in your cohort. Is that right?
That is correct. Ira
Price
Price and Michael Schweitzer.
Mike Schweitzer. So they also were on the list with Magen David Adom.
Michael has in fact also trained, just like Natalie has trained with him ahead of time, and Ira and I both were on the list. And they accepted us basically based on qualifications, because you have to send them your license and you have to send them your proof of your training and so on, because we're unknown. Someone like Natalie, who's trained with them, they know her. For those who didn't train with them, they wanted some documentation, which is totally reasonable. The processing time was very quick. Once they had it, I got a call within about a day and a half saying, when can you go?
And do you have any idea of the numbers worldwide that would be like you and like Natalie that would be volunteering?
I can say that across North America, there have been, true as of last week, something in the area of 6,000 people in the healthcare fields, being physicians, nurses, paramedics, and so on, who have volunteered through a variety of organizations. There are probably other organizations not captured in that. I can also say that at the Canadian side, there are now about 115 people waiting on the list to deploy, with the next group, I think, of 6 or 9 people coming early next week. So after I leave, there's another rota coming in.
And I like to say that in France, they ask for 5 more, just today, Daniel, they ask for 5 more medical doctors to go to Israel to help the equipe of Mada. Today they ask.
I have another question. Why is the amount of time that you are there limited? I understood that Ira went and he cannot spend more than 1 week there. I hear now that you are coming back on Saturday. Is it really limited, or is it because of work that you have beside the volunteering?
Well, the reality is that most people cannot just up and go for an endless amount of time. So, for example, Mike Schweitzer has a family practice office. Those patients also need servicing.
Right.
I could not be here had it not been for the physicians in my department who covered my shifts.
Okay.
But I can't do that forever. Right? Okay. So typically a week to 10 days, 2 weeks is roughly what people deploy for. If you remember, the deployment in Ukraine was 2 weeks. That seems to be sort of like the industry norm. There's no scientific reason for that. It just seems to be.
But if you had a doctor that is perhaps retired here and he wanted to stay there indefinitely, could he do that?
Probably. Look, if I could stay another 2 or 3 weeks, I would.
Yeah, I know. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I don't think motivation is the issue at all. I think it's just the practicality of it.
Yeah, we have another friend here, Judy and Irvin, Paula.
Yes.
Their son, Josh, he did the army. And I know he left his job, I don't know, maybe a month, 2 months ago. He's just volunteering. They're doing a whole bunch of stuff, and he doesn't know when he's going to be back. Yeah,
he's doing driving and deliveries to different units and bases and helping in a myriad of ways. Not on Miloim, like just as a volunteer.
Yeah. I can tell you my relative, my second cousin there in Gedera, if she doesn't do, she's retired a few years back. But for example, this morning I got something from her. She's involved with making wreaths for all the funerals there, involved with flowers. Yesterday she told me, or the day before, there was a need for t-shirts for soldiers. She called a store near Gedera. She said, all the t-shirts that you have, send it over to the Hamal, to the war room. They have arranged there. There's zillions of things. People are just getting together. It's unbelievable.
Yeah,
I
Laura,
just want to point out something.
Yeah,
It's not just having the t-shirts. Someone's got to figure out what's needed, where it is, where it has to go, how
Right.
is it going to get there?
right.
Now, a lot of this happened spontaneously, and the people who organized the demonstrations against judicial reform, they were so phenomenally organized.
Yeah,
They're part of the group that's organizing this.
yeah,
Because if you can organize, you can organize. The logistics behind everything that is happening here is phenomenal. The fact that I can arrive and I have a helmet and I have a flak jacket and it's waiting for me. And when Ira and Michael left, someone came by this evening with a car to pick it up because it's going somewhere else, right? That is huge organization.
Mhm.
And that is, it's unbelievably impressive.
yeah.
I wanted to mention Laura was asking, what else can people do? And Chaim, when you're mentioning your relative and all these grassroots efforts to gather things that are needed, Jordan has a cousin that I'm very close with in Modi'in, and she has a daughter that just started the army last October. She's stationed up in the north as an observer, and so she and the other moms in Modi'in, they are like these phenomenal forces. What do you need, Mayan? What does all your base need? And then they're going out and taking donations and buying all these things and boxing them up and finding a way to get them up there. So we heard about from her a need to knit black toques, just black wool toques. And so a group in Ottawa has started at Temple Israel. We're starting it here too. We're shipping them to Modi'in, and those moms are sending those out to places that are getting cold already for nighttime sorties.
Beautiful. I saw that.
We're really
Other
in.
questions or loose ends?
Sorry?
Other questions or loose ends, or are you all tired of us
Any
already?
other questions? Just words, reflections, anyone?
I actually have a question. Hi, Dan.
Hi there.
Hope you're doing well. My question is for you and everyone who's gone out. How do you come back home? Where's your mind at? And how are you personally? How's your health? And how do you come back to, facing our problems and our, smaller scale complaints? And how do you work amongst people having witnessed and been through what you've been through?
Nathalie, do you want to start? Because you're already back. I have an answer, but you're already there.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you to give me the things to answer.
I just dumped it on you. There we go.
I will say it's very difficult. I'm not back yet. It's very difficult. I'm sorry.
I'll take you off the hook. That wasn't fair of me to do. My mind is going to be here. I have an app on my phone that you select the regions you're in, and it'll go off when the air raid sirens go off in case you don't hear them. The thought of taking that off the phone and not hearing when a missile is coming in to this station that I just spent a week in with people that I have become really close to, because like it or not, you do become close to them. It's gonna feel really not right to take the app off the phone. I know that sounds stupid because it's totally irrelevant to me in North America. So part of my mind is going to be here for sure. In terms of, you said, our little problems, you know what? Everyone's problems are important to them, right? So in the North American world, the problems of our emergency departments are real problems. They're not trivial. And I'll have to refocus, but it's not going to be easy. There's a difference in intensity, and the only thing I can compare it to is years and years ago, I had a SIDS death in the department. I had a baby who was brought in that I couldn't resuscitate. in fact, was dead on arrival. And when we were all done and we did a very quick debrief, the next patient I walked into was a very happy, healthy 8-month-old with a sniffle. And how do you sort of not carry that with you? And what you do is you park it. You park it and it's there, but it's not with you right that instant. It's in a suitcase somewhere. And at some point, I think we're all going to pay the price on that. But I can't pay it now, and I won't pay it now. And maybe if you wait long enough, the payment will be smaller. So that may be a bit more philosophic than you expected. Sorry, go ahead, Nathalie.
No, I just wanted to say to everybody that to answer this question, I just come back on Monday night. I didn't sleep at all the night because too much things in my head and too much. It's not what we have seen, because we really don't see awful things, because we were not in the front. We were just to keep and to save life, not life, but how do you say, Daniel, de soigner les gens, en fait, d'être là pour soigner les gens, to help
We're there
people.
to take care of people. We're just there to take care of regular people.
But I decided to work, and I am a medical doctor I am a family doctor in France. So I decided to go to work immediately, and I work all day long, but I never work like that. I mean, I get to my office at 8 o'clock and I finish at 8 o'clock, and I stop half an hour to eat. But it helps me to make the reality coming in me, and not to be out of all that stuff. But when I finish yesterday night, yesterday I finished my work, and I was not good because of all the things we have heard, all the things we have, all this experience we have lived, and it's very difficult to not to hear the bomb, not to hear the alert, not to hear the siren. It's very difficult not to hear the people telling us everything. And well, it's I think it's going to be okay. Like Daniel say, it's going to, we have to make time and to take time to go. Okay, but if I can do it again, I will do it again.
Absolutely. I would come back. I would stay here and I would come back in a flash. No questions asked. You know, you're on the right side. And that is an incredibly strong force. That you know you are doing things that are good and that are right. And I'm not saying that as self-aggrandizement. I'm saying that just as a way to keep my headspace right, is that I know I'm doing things that are good. That's a huge force. And spiritually, it's a huge force.
I think the unity that's happening in Israel amongst all the Jewish people worldwide right now, we're all focused on the success and being together and doing the best we can to survive this and to move on, to move on in better ways. And I think you've seen that. You talked about the Haredim coming, and just, the people that were marching for democracy recently, they're now fully engaged in this. So you see everyone coming together.
Other thoughts, other questions?
I was going to say, you know what, from my perspective, this is in response to Natalie's question. I'm struggling with answering it, but for me, it's like life, for me, revolves around what's going on in Israel. I don't need to be there to go through an experience coming back here. It's as though from October 7th, for most of my waking hours, I would be around N12, which is right beside me right here now, and it's 24 hours. And in between that, there might be dinner. Maybe the best thing I've done over the last 2 weeks, on the weekend, I went for 2-hour hike just to get some fresh air. And even then, I had my phone with me, and if somebody called me or I would get on it. It'll be a struggle getting back to normality, and I don't even have to be there. It's and
it's actually easier here. It's easier here. I was eating I don't know about anyone else. I was eating myself alive there. At least here you feel you could do something.
And for those of us that are, I actually brought it up in a JNF coast to coast meeting. What was I going to say? I befriended a young fellow who's now recruited, is in the army, on my flight to Israel about a month and a half ago when we first went there for the high holidays. And he texted me when the war started. He sent me a picture with this group. And he says, we need a lot of help here and so on. Can you help us out? I said, I already help. And somewhere along the line, he said, you are better off where you are helping us here. And it almost gave me a bit of a comfort that we abroad, not being there might be truth to this. Just being involved with JNF, I saw Alon Davidi, the mayor of Ashdod, this morning on the news, and we had him here. We hosted him here in Hamilton. We had a Negev dinner with him. There's all these things. Gal Hirsch was at Beit Jacob Synagogue in 2018, and he's the head of the negotiating team to get the hostages out. There's a lot of things that subconsciously, not even we are helping Israel being here. For those of us who feel bad not being there like Danny is. I'm just...
So there's a question from Hinda Levine and then Rhonda Dahan. Hinda?
Hang on. It's actually Hinda's other half. Danny and I missed the beginning, and the colleague from France, Kollek. Dan, when you made the statement about the protesters, the protest movement pivoting and now providing infrastructure, my cousin is very involved in that. She was a protester, but now is very involved in the getting stuff to the south. What could you say a little bit more about? You stayed away from the politics, but what she said to me was very scary, in that because of the current government, in many ministries, they are headed now by extremists from the Israeli government. They've booted out, replaced bureaucracy or minions who understand how to run a ministry with their own people who are hopeless, so that Israel is not only suffering from war, but from an infrastructure to run a country that has really been devastated. And I wonder if you could verify that, and comment a bit more. And just finally, Chaim, I know, was talking about me. Everybody, I'm 71 years old. I don't have a medical license anymore for 5 years. So sorry, Chaim, I can't, I wouldn't fit. Danny,
okay,
please.
So let's talk about that. I mean, prior to October 7th, this was a country that was split between between left and right, secular and Orthodox, and Netanyahu and the right-wing government were trying to pass legislation to essentially end democracy here. They weren't going to admit to that, of course, but it was to limit any checks and balances on them. I was here at Passover, and I was out demonstrating with my kids against the so-called judicial reform. And within that group, who were against Netanyahu, against the current government, were Orthodox, were old, were young, were secular, were gay, were straight. It was really a true rainbow coalition. So first comment I want to make is that I and everybody around me need to be careful about the labels Orthodox and secular. because not all Orthodox belong to Netanyahu's government by any stretch. Now, in the pre-war government, there were a few extremists, and of course, one person's extremist is another person's patriot. But there were right-wing people like Itamar Ben-Gvir, who was in fact so right-wing that the army refused to draft him, and he was Minister of Public Security. And then there was Bezalel Smotrich, who was the Minister of Finance, who is barely competent in English and who has no concept of finance, and so on. This was basically a crony government. So the country was doing very badly. And it is said that the temple fell because of the hatred amongst brothers, that in biblical times, we were really tearing ourselves apart. And Netanyahu's government, the right-wing government, was labeling the left wing as Smolanim Bogdim, left-wing traitors. So it was very, very antagonistic. Comes October 7th. The left-wing traitors, in quotation marks, are the ones who grabbed all their gear and ran to the front. And keeping in mind that he was talking at the time about reservists who weren't going to volunteer for extra duty and so on. The moment October 7th happened, the left wing that was protesting against him parked that and they ran to the front, literally ran to the front. Some of them had kids in the kibbutzim. One guy, his wife, and he got into their car with the only weapon being a handgun and drove to the Gaza Strip, drove to Sderot to rescue his son and his grandkids. So the country has grown to note that these left-wing traitors are not left-wing traitors. In the opposite direction, as I mentioned earlier, 2,000 Haredim, ultra-Orthodox, have enlisted in the army. The Haredim are coming from around the world to help staff the ambulances. The Haredim are involved in anything to do with retrieval of bodies and identification of bodies, which is one of the most gruesome tasks you can imagine. In fact, the leader of that group of Zaka actually collapsed yesterday and was taken to hospitals for exhaustion. So they also aren't fitting the cliche that I, as a left-wing person, had. So I think everybody is stopping and doing a moment of thought about what our biases have been and rethinking our biases. There's no question that the government, as Netanyahu had formed it, was a corrupt, cronyistic, incompetent government. And it was formed for reasons of his politics, nothing to do with their competence. The current wartime cabinet, though, is not so. The wartime cabinet is a technocratic cabinet of people who presumably know what they're doing. And the people who are extremists are not in that cabinet. Though I expect there to be some politicking to go on from this point on. There are huge cries across the country for Netanyahu to resign. And there already is, you're hearing in the background the drumbeat of his trying to assign blame to others, but I don't think that's going to wash. Because this event is beyond, I mean, this country has lost people at wars. This is my third war here, I realized at one point. And I have never seen anything like this in terms of national unity. I've never seen anything like this in terms of national pain. I do not think Netanyahu can escape this one. He may be the magician, but he's not going to get out, magic himself out of this one. So I think that crony government is going to fall. And if we're lucky, these are the birth pangs of perhaps a better Israel. So it's a long answer to your question, but
very, very helpful. Thank you very much for the insights.
Rhonda?
Hi. It's nice to see you again, Daniel.
Hi, Rhonda.
My question is, how different is this stint now to the Ukrainian one when you went?
I mean, first of all, clinically it was different. There, what I was dealing with was primary care for busloads of refugees who were being taken away from their, like, who just upped and left. And I wasn't I wasn't ambulance-based, and it was really just to try and work through a lot of people and make sure that their primary care needs are taken care of. This is, I was not in any realistic sense at threat here, under threat there, as I am here. I mean, those of you who missed the very beginning of this Zoom call, you had, those who were on had a chance to hear the sirens go off and see me head into the safe part of this building, which is the stairwell. That wasn't happening in Ukraine. The other thing is that with all of Russia's brutality, there was nothing like this. This is beyond ISIS. These are, and I know this comes across as I can't think of a way to put this. These are babies burnt alive. These are women raped and killed, or raped and paraded in front of others and taken hostage. These are people, elderly people, just beaten and dragged into the tunnels in Gaza. There's no parallel to this level of subhuman brutality since the Holocaust. And I am including in that the African wars, the Hutu and the Tutsis, which were horrific, and the Serbs and the Croats. There is no war I know of that has had this kind of behavior, and as a result, this kind of emotional impact. And add to that these are my people. I mean, my parents fled the Holocaust, and having this happened here in the country that my parents were very involved in creating puts a whole emotional overlay that I didn't have in Ukraine. What is parallel is the sense of doing good and the sense of being part of a team and the sense of working together with everybody. But the emotional overlay is usually different. So again, sorry, long answer to a simple question.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
We have passed our 1 hour, which is our usual Zoom limit. But there's no limits on our appreciation and our kavod to you, Dr. Kollek. Thank you so much for giving us insight into your experience. And we are all feeling that pain. We're all feeling that.
And to Natalie, because she was there. She was there with us.
Thank you for coming online. And I know it's getting late for both of you, and sleep is needed. So I wish you a good night's sleep, Natalie. May you have some sweet.
I just wanted to say something. There's the meaning of all that is what Daniel say, and I just wanted to say that to know them and to join them, the three of us, Daniel and Ira and Michael, it was a real experience that we never be able to have without these circumstances. So even if it's something awful, and even if we have all the courage and the hope in our hearts, meeting these people and living what we have lived together is I never forget. Anyway,
Thank you so much.
Likewise.
Love you, Daniel.
Likewise. Love you too, Natalie.
Bye to everybody.
Wish you both a sweet evening. Thank you so much, Dr. Kollek. Thanks to everyone who was able to come online and for your questions and for your.
יישר כוחכם.
Night, everybody.
Good night.